Welcome back again to another session of the Unlearning Curve. Joining me is Karl J. Forehand, JD Forehand, and I'm Stuart Delony. The Unlearning Curve is a podcast where we talk about things like mental health and also the weirdness of different parts of faith, Christianity, cults, and all of that other jazz. You can find us, listen to us wherever you consume your podcasts. And if you want to contact us, reach out to us, ask us questions, you can. Just check it in the show notes. The unlearningcurvepodcast at gmail.com. I just made Karl angry for saying that in the opening because he knows it's in the show notes.
That's right.
But this session we have Cult of the Month, where we're going to be talking about the Shincheonji Church of Jesus, which is probably pronounced somewhere in the realm of incorrect, but or the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony. So we're going to be talking about this cult that I think Karl and I are going to get a little education from JD and tell us about the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony. Is that really the whole? Or am I reading my notes wrong?
I think the name gets like translated weird, and also the Church of Jesus, the Tabernacle, the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony. It's too much alliteration.
That's a lot of words.
It's also like one of the founding churches that it kind of came from, so I don't totally understand, to be 100% honest. But I do think that it's like a very interesting and has been very in vogue church, and I think that for me, part of it is also one of the reasons that I wanted to do it. One was to get outside of the U.S. because we got to mix it up a bit. We can't always hate on the U.S. It's fun to do. Don't get me wrong. But
there are other parts of the world.
They do exist. We need to be slightly less America-centric. And soon enough, I'm going to start getting off Christianity. I'm going to make you guys go and talk about other religions because they're all. I mean, hierarchies are bad. I think.
Stop teasing us, JD.
Just wait. But I will say that I'm going to pronounce a lot of this stuff wrong because I don't speak Korean. But this church is a pretty interesting one. Founded in 1984. It is, the Shincheonji, I think. I tried to learn Korean once on Duolingo for about 1 week, and I gave up. It was founded by
the same way about Mandarin.
You gotta. I could teach you if you're willing to pay the money. I'll teach you online. I think you should just learn Taiwanese instead. It's slightly less used, but.
Sorry, go ahead. You're talking about something.
I just think it's there.
Something.
Yeah, you're just rambling, so just keep going. But this is a church. It has been actually defined as a cult, unlike some of our other ones, which I think is interesting because I do think in the globalized internet sphere, there's like a more willingness to call what a lot of like international religious organizations do, call them cults before we would call like an American church a cult, even though they're almost the same. Like this one had like real big issues with COVID, real big issues with sex scandals. Does any of this sound familiar? Embezzlement. Yes. Never happens in the US. But part of it is also the government response in Korea, which has been better, even though the government, during a lot of the time that this government was in power, like numerous leaders were impeached and removed from office because they were so corrupt. So I think it kind of somewhat speaks to the at least willingness of the Korean government to like kind of step out against this stuff. And I would also like to say Korean culture, and this is generally speaking, and it's modern Korean culture, but it is very like misogynistic. And so like the fact that any of like these like sexual abuse claims and things like that have been taken seriously is a little bit surprising, especially compared to America. But anyway.
Is it North or South Korea?
It is South Korea. North Korea, you would be shot with an AA gun if you even talked about Christianity.
Okay. Continue.
So South Korea's got that going for it.
Yeah, because I think North Korea already has their god.
Yes, it is the three Kims. Yes.
Little munchkin.
The three Kims, that sounds like some sort of like 80s rom-com. The three Kims. Sorry, keep going.
Three Kims.
That guy's like a cartoon character. Is that? Am I thinking right? North Korea, the
Little Rocket Man.
Kim Jong-un.
Un.
And,
Kim Jong-un is the current leader, yes.
Yeah.
Ah, little rocket man, Kim Jong-un. He wrote me beautiful letters, folks. So beautiful, poetic. Idiot.
He let me touch his rocket.
We crossed in the DMZ, and let's just say, folks, he crossed my DMZ. So
he hangs
anyway,
out with his daughter, kind of like Elon and his little boy.
and his
I saw a
sister.
picture, not to go back to the United States, but I saw a picture of Trump walking with Elon's son,
Mhm.
X,
Mhm.
on the lawn of the White House. It just looked like he was babysitting
Mhm.
while Elon was doing the important work. Anyway, sorry.
Is that the one that's just
Way
named
off
a
track.
string of like random code?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. But the fun part, even though we're totally off topic, the fun part is you should like. There was a press conference where Little X was. If no one's seen this, it's fantastic. Where Little X was. It was. I think Elon is talking, but he keeps leaning over and just like trashing Trump. Little X would be like, "You're not the president. Why are you sitting here? My dad's talking right now. Be quiet." And he's saying stuff like that too.
Shushing him, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I need to go watch
But yeah.
this. I had not seen
I
that.
don't know.
That
Yeah.
that is
Classic.
very like Little X. Like it is like he's like little
Mhm.
Twitter. But I was
Mhm.
when I hear Little X, I think of Little Nas X.
Yeah, which is way better
confuses me.
than Little X.
Yeah, for sure. But
Mhm.
he's Satanist. He has shoes
Mm.
with blood in them. So
He does.
I don't even know enough to comment. So, you rappers, hip hop.
Yeah.
I
So
can turn you on to some good hip hop.
I'm
Okay.
sure there is, and I should
Wow.
listen to it, and I could. Have nothing but time.
so
Sorry.
how big? But this church, was there any Christian rap that came out of the Shincheonji?
Oh.
Well, whatever. The Church of Jesus of the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony.
See, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it easier for me to try to butcher the Korean, or is it easier for me to say the English, which is also a mouthful? I think
I feel like it's more fun. Like it sounds way more culty to have like this ridiculously long name. So I don't know.
yes. I think I don't know if there is any hip hop. That is something that we'll have to do a follow up episode on. But they
Okay.
did get quite large at one point. It depends on whose numbers you looked at, but like there are numbers that go over 300,000. And yeah, it's a lot of people think it's kind of declining now because it's gone through so many scandals, but it still has hundreds of thousands of people, they think. So yeah, they use a lot of like very interesting tactics, like doing tarot card readings, which I thought was like kind of interesting.
That was
then just, like,
that's their main recruiting thing, right?
It's one of them, yeah. They did
Yeah.
fortune telling. They also will like infiltrate other churches like spies and then like siphon off members, which is kind of like that's kind of cool. I don't know.
Creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different.
It's not the most creative I've heard of. Like flirty fishing is way cooler, but I won't go into that because we might get like banned on YouTube. But anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, they also have like people spy on their family members' phones, so they're just like checking phones like a jealous boyfriend. So that's also pretty chill. And yeah, the leader of the religion, Lee Man-hee, was also in a very interesting. Speaking of Kims, he was in an extramarital affair, according to Kim Nam-hee. So that's also kind of cool.
So the fortune telling isn't that like they're also collecting personal information from people when they do that?
I think that's almost certainly true. I don't know 100%, but I assume it's similar to like what Scientology does, where they kind of get dirty little things on you, and then they're like, "Well, we have this information, so if you ever leave, it might get leaked."
Yeah. Beware of a cult that almost always in one way or another says, "Give us some secrets so that we know you're serious." So we know you're serious. But then when you try to get out, we'll use that against you. How, in a country like the United States, so many options and all of that, how could we ever be duped by that? It's just that we're lonely enough, in a modern society to go for it. I was reading from your notes. For the elderly, they offer fortune telling on the streets to collect personal information. That's what it says. aggressive, deceptive proselytizing.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that word now.
It's a good word. Interestingly enough, I was thinking about this. I forget what was. Oh, I remember. It was because we were talking about Franklin Graham sending cheap trinkets abroad to try to get to, be like, I gave you a shoebox full of garbage. Don't you love Jesus now? It made me think of this, and this interestingly ties into this. As I drove one of my friends to the MRT station, the subway here, and when I dropped them off, there was immediately someone who came up to them, and then they were like, "Oh, I'm busy, I gotta go," and I was like, "Oh no!" Because I saw them look at me, and it was 4 people, and they immediately looked at me, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I'm sitting on my scooter. I'm like, "Do I just rip away?" And I was like, "No, that would be rude." So they come up to me, and it's a person trying to speak to me in pretty broken English, and so I just started speaking to them in Mandarin, which is what I usually do, and the 2 of them just didn't really know what to say. And then the other 2 were like, oh, they're Korean. They're Korean Christians that had come over. And they were like, can we proselytize you? And I was like, well, they didn't say that, but they're like, can we tell you something? And I was like, well, I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me about Jesus and how I need to accept him if I don't want to go to hell. And I was like, this has happened a lot of times. Also, I probably know the Bible better than you. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but spent a pretty decent chunk of my life in the church. But I was like, sure, whatever, let's just get this over with. And so the youngest kid pulls out this book and starts reading to me in English. And it's just, the most basic, chick tract kind of thing. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, Jesus loves you. And I was like, okay. And he just gives me candy. And then they're just like, thanks. And they walk away. I was like, what a inhuman moment to have. It's so cold. And I remember a similar thing, and I'll stop going on in a second, but a similar thing happened to me when I was in the US. I was working at a Asian restaurant, and I had a group come in, 2 people, and they ate and everything, and they were fine enough, whatever. But then they left on the table, instead of a tip, they left a chick tract with a piece of candy on it. And I was like, first of all, already know what that is, because I know what chick tracts look like. Second of all, you're not going to leave a tip, and you're just going to fucking put a Hershey's Kiss on there. You can Hershey's Kiss my ass. But then I picked up the tract and looked through it, and it was just this little Timmy did drugs, and then he didn't accept Jesus, and so he burned in hell. And I was like, well, this is fucking trash. And then I threw it in the garbage. And it's just that's the worst way to evangelize to someone. Anyway.
No, it's absolutely insane. I mean, when people do that, it's so dehumanizing. Kind of if I have this great thing that I think is so wonderful that's going to change your entire life, here's a piece of paper. Peace out. What? I've never understood that. That happened to me. This is years back, but when I was in seminary, I was at our local library just because it was a quiet place to write. And I remember watching this woman, and I guess because I had my beard was longer and I was wearing a beanie or something like that. She keeps watching me, and then she's looking at me, and then eventually because I'm catching this out of the corner of my eyes, what is she doing? And then eventually I guess she got up enough courage and then slides a note, which is a tract, over to me and then leaves. Which I was just this is also just hilarious that I am you're evangelizing a pastor that's in seminary right now. And, but you feel but they feel good that they did it. They checked a box. The folks at the station. How many people did you talk to today about Jesus? Oh, I spoke to 40. You're amazing, Brother Jordan.
I spoke to them.
Sometime in
across the table.
One of the times when I was a pastor, one of the churches I was attending, I got to hang out for some reason a little more with the denominational people. And the church planners and so on would come around, and I can't remember what they called themselves, but the director of missions and the church strategist or something like that. And his job, he spent some time in Taiwan, so JD will know who I'm talking about. But he would literally go throughout his day just trying to do that, trying to make a contact, or drive around a town creepily and say that he's prayer walking or whatever, and he would have to get those things in every day. And that was what I felt like my status report became with that last church, because it was a church plant. So it's how many contacts did you make today? How many times did you share the gospel? How many times, in a track, which we all agree is even triggering to us now. It's one of the most horrible things you could do. Is just, but that's checking the boxes, right? It's busy work. It's doing something.
Community and religion or the gospel, this supposedly perfect God-inspired document, into a fucking number. Like, it's just it's just creating data. Like, it's so disgusting. If you really believe in that should be the last thing you want to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm in sales, basically.
Or it's, anyone been around the Gideons? Where they're just handing out those tiny little Bibles just over and over and over again. I remember seeing that in college. Like, you'd walk past, and then right past them, you'd see a trash can full of little Gideon's Bibles.
Yeah.
And so it's the whole thing is, but Scripture is holy, and we need to treat it well. But you're also handing out little garbage Bibles to people. What do you expect is going to happen to this kind of stuff?
Right. They'll get one story, one good story, one, and like with the religion you're talking about, JD, I'm wondering what kind of people you get from that type of proselytizing, right? That inhuman kind of contact. Who does that connect with finally?
I feel like this is way more effective than anything we did, Karl. I mean, if some of this stuff,
people.
I mean, the talking to people, like mind control type stuff, where they're like, we have to get you in here, and you have to have these classes where we're essentially gonna brainwash you, type stuff, or indoctrinate you fully. It sounds like these folks really, they had it going on.
Got it down. You can lie more efficiently. You can say, God told me that you were texting inappropriately on your phone. Well, how did you know that? That must be a revelation from God.
Ooh. Pretty safe assumption.
Well, because I think that's one of the things from this church cult thing that we're talking about. Is this whole idea. I think their main dude, like, was it Lee Man-hee? Like, I think he has this whole idea of that. Well, it's what many of these folks do, to where he's the only one to interpret the revelation of God's stuff, and the Bible matters a little bit, but really his revelation matters most of all. In that, which is classic.
Yeah,
I've got the decoder ring. I'm the only one that can read this kind of thing. Or was it Joseph Smith? He had I think he had the holy glasses or something that he could use to it was something like that. But
there were different parts in different aspects, but that was all because his whole family was like right hand path magicians who were doing divination rods, and I think he put the golden tablets or whatever in a hat and was looking into the hat, and I personally think he just had a hole in the bottom of the hat and was just sucking himself off the whole time.
They also found out that was
that's a little impressive to get some sort of a following. I'm assuming is that early OnlyFans?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you saying, Dad?
Sorry. When we could read hieroglyphics, they found out that was a funeral text that he supposedly translated. Of course, then like Southern Baptists, they doubled down on that. But for him, it was a divine revelation, even in secular things. Whatever.
Again, it's nice how you can just move the goalposts like that. You could just say it's.
Was there any sexual crimes and stuff? I don't remember from
There's always got to be something.
Yeah, there's been so that Kim Nam Hee, which was, he apparently had an affair with her, according to her, but she also said that she wasn't the only one. So there's, from what I've read, there's nothing to say that he used force in terms of physical force, but I mean, you look at it's power assault,
power differentials.
Yeah. So I think either way, it's obviously not good, and also anyway, you shouldn't be cheating on your wife. I think that's somewhere in the Bible that you're not supposed to cheat on your wife, but maybe I'm wrong.
Unless there's a pool boy.
Yeah,
there you go. That's not cheating on your wife. That's your wife having a good time and you enjoying it as well.
That's true.
But yes, there's allegations. I don't know if he's been convicted, and I think that they may have an Oh, now I can't think of the word. What's it called when you cheat on your wife? I can't remember the word in English now.
Affair?
Cheat on your spouse.
Infidelity?
There's another word I'm looking for, but anyway, yes. There may be a law against that, because there used to be a law here in Taiwan against that until like 5 years ago, I want to say. That if you were caught like on camera cheating on your spouse, adultery is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Mm-hmm. There's an anti-adultery law. So basically, if you were married and you got caught cheating on your spouse, you could potentially face jail time, which I don't agree with, but I do think that all Christians should have to follow. That would be good. Is if they want to live under like their Christian Sharia, then I think they should self jail. Mm-hmm. I think churches, along with their coffee shops and bookshops, need jails for their own people only. But
especially if they're going to police it themselves.
So, yeah. I believe in separation of church and state. I'm just saying, for you guys, like you catch anyone breaking any laws, let's start putting people in jail. Because then at least I have to deal with less of you handing me fucking chick
once a quarter at the potluck. We could put the pastor in jail.
If he's
unless that's his thing.
Let's be fair.
Unless that's his thing too. So he may be
like,
"Oh, I've been a bad boy.
Yeah,
put me in jail." They're like, "Gosh, the system doesn't work. He likes it."
Yeah.
But one thing about this church, which I love this, and I've heard other churches say stuff like this. But I think they've preached that there's only, since heaven is only going to have 144,000 spots.
Yeah.
Once they exceed the number, so they keep doing this idea of like trying to, like, you have to make sure you're one of the one that's getting in.
Yeah, the elect.
The elect. You got to be one of the 144,000. So. Yeah. Which I guess that number, which is insane. I know how they've used it from Revelation, and it's not what they think it is when they're using this, but it's effective. It's a number that you can point to in Scripture, and any good cult will have that, because if we think of it, if there's only 144,000 people, let's just run with this, that are actually getting into heaven, if we think heaven and hell are real. But if just presupposing all of this is true, it would be you could really see your cult group going like, well, we are the elect, because population and how many people are on the planet, you're wanting to only be part of that tiny little microcosm. It's also just a dumb idea, but people like those kind of things. But
I don't know if
you would have to hustle pretty hard if you wanted to be in that elect.
I don't know if my calculator will figure that out. 8 billion divided by 144,000.
Was that is that the population of Korea? Yeah.
8 billion, right, JD?
8 billion is the current population of the world, yes.
The world, okay.
So, I don't know if my calculator would have that many zeros on it. But
what tiny infinitesimal fraction that would be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you did the population of Korea, it's an incredibly small number, because Korea's got like 51 million people or something. Like, it would be such a small number that it's insane. Every
time I hear that, I'm sorry.
Go
ahead. So every time I hear that number, I think of 144 is a what? What is 144? It's 12 dozen, right?
Oh, okay. It's a gross, right?
It's a gross. And so that's what I always think about it as gross. It's just a gross theology.
It is gross theology.
That's how I remember the number. That's Jehovah's Witness, right?
Jehovah's Witness believe in that. I want to say some sects of Mormon do as well, but I think
Mormons. There's kind of a twist on that. Maybe
they get their own planet though, that's actually sick.
Lots of weird thing.
Yeah, it's also really sick.
Yeah.
By the way, if you want to know what the percentage is of the current population, not all the population that's existed in the whole span of humankind. I don't know if Neanderthals count or anything, but like we've gone through well over like 20, 30 billion people. The percent would be 0.00000018. I'm not a mathematician, but the calculator I think did the correct math.
It's like less than 1%.
No. It's not less than 1%. This is a percentage. The percent is 0.00000018. 0.0000. That's 4 zeros, 18 percent. Not like that's the number. I moved the decimal place over too, so that's the percent.
I got you.
So it's
even moving the decimal
infinitesimally
is still
small.
gross.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even when you move the decimal, it's gross.
Yeah, exactly.
But they would just tell us that we're basically just the losers that are on the outside of it. This is exactly what the non-elect would say, saying things like this, because you don't have that ticket to it.
So Calvinism was smart. They didn't put a number on it of the elect, right? So they didn't. So nobody can criticize them like this, even though there's a lot more gross things in their estimation of things. But they didn't put a number on their elect. It's just the elect, so it can be more vague.
But but also if you're going with their mentality too, because I know JD, you were trying to exponential the number out on that, because I'm guessing these folks are probably young Earth creationists. So usually, so that's like 6,000 years old. How old the Earth is and everything, and whoever said Neanderthals, those don't exist. I've been to the Creation Museum. No, they were demons. Or
there were giants though.
The Neanderthals probably was like 4 people. Like it's the elect are 4 people. It's our cave. The people in our cave. Instead of 144,000.
Sure.
It's 4.
It's 4. The elect.
Just 4 of us. Well,
4 Neanderthals getting in.
4s are unlucky in a lot of Asian countries. At least in I believe in Japan.
One of my favorite numbers.
Taiwan and definitely in Taiwan and also in China, because at least in Taiwan and China the number sounds like the same word for death. Fun fact.
And isn't some in China? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Isn't like 666? I think that's lucky, isn't it?
But yes. It's not lucky. It just means like awesome. So you'll hear kids just be like like it just means like, oh, that's sick, that's cool. Like, so you'll see kids write like 666 on stuff, and I'm just like, if you did this in America, people would be freaked out. It just goes to show it's so stupid. It's just like dumb numerology stuff we do. It's also related to a lot of the number stuff in Mandarin or Taiwanese or other like these kind of languages is related to like it's a homophone for another word. So that's really what it is. But there's also just like people will wear shirts that just say like Hail Satan and stuff here because they just like a lot of people don't know what it says. It's really fun.
JD, you grew up in not only the church but my churches, right? So I take part of the responsibility for whatever trauma you have with that.
As you should.
Did Karl's churches were they open and accepting of homophones?
They were let's say lower education churches, so they were skeptical of homophones, but if you explained it, I think they would generally be
okay.
They would like, cautiously
we're just talking being open
it.
to the homophone lifestyle.
Do you like
I don't understand what you're talking about.
It's nonsense.
I know you're joking about something, but I don't get it.
Nothing.
A homophone is a word that sounds the same but is different in meaning and often spelling.
Okay.
So like
right.
TOTWO and TOO.
Yeah.
This is my question for JD.
Okay.
I mean, to me, we touted ourselves as evangelistic, as sharing the gospel, and always that's a part of it. But a part of me, even back then, always wondered, why do I have to be aggressively marketing my God if it's the real deal? If it's something that's, we used to say, well, if I had something that we could earn $1 million, then I would tell people, right? So then that justified us being aggressive, right? And we weren't as much as some people, but we certainly thought it was important. But why do you have to market a God or a solution or anything that's really good? I don't think you do. I think if something is truly good, it kind of spreads like wildfire, and people, if I was giving away clothes to people from my home here, there would be cars backed up, and it wouldn't take 5 seconds for it to get around town. Karl's giving away $5,000, and he really is. I got mine.
I didn't get mine.
Me either.
I've known you for a while, Karl. I'm not happy with you and your church.
I
don't
No.
think if you've got the real deal, you should have to aggressively proselytize and then trick people into staying there or abuse them into staying there if you really have something that's good.
But you're
They would
forgetting that
not
they're
want
being
to-
tempted and tricked by the devil as well.
Oh, of
You
course.
have a
Which
counter salesman saying that no, Karl doesn't have
Mhm.
the $5,000, or at least that's what they'd have you believe.
they're tricked by the being that God supposedly sent to them or allowed to come to them and allowed to
Yeah.
tempt them.
Mhm.
And created, full well knowing if he's
Created.
omniscient that it was going to become the devil.
That it would
Mhm.
happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
What's
causes
the name of the
problems.
cult again that we're talking about? What was it?
It is. What do you want the English name or the Korean name? The Korean name is Shincheonji, or the English name is the Church of Jesus, the Tabernacle of the. Oh, sorry, the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony. But
Mhm.
again, I'm
Well,
not. I'm not
They
sure. if
needed a
that's-
guy like you there when
They
were
need like a tongue
trying-
twister. I like that. The Temple
Yeah.
of the Turp. Yeah.
They needed a guy like you that could help them interpret that and do a better job of naming it.
The other part I loved about them it was like a little nugget that I found was that they apparently divide their members into 12 tribes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fun. That's just
Yeah.
fun. That's just fun.
They do.
I don't even
They
know.
do. They do a lot of that where they like divide they basically divide South Korea up into those tribes, and then there's other stuff they do with like numerology and stuff too. It's I mean, again, at least you're having fun with it, I guess.
So I don't know if you ever heard Jim Gaffigan's take on how they name Mexican food. He said they're all made of the same things, the beans and rice and tortillas and so on. He said, I think they name it after people. So they were in a room and we got this new thing. Well, what do we call it? It's the same thing, but it's fried. Now, so what should we call it? Well, what's your name? Chonga. And so he says, Chimichanga. So that's the name, right? Should we call it the Church of Jesus? Or is it a temple? Or is it a tabernacle? We're really about testimony. So it's all of these. The temple of the tabernacle of the testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think they need a little help in their translation.
I think we need a couple other T words on the end of it too. I just think that's probably that's going to almost be like a password to get in. What church is this? The Church of the Jesus of the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Tuesday and Tilapia. And I don't. Yeah, it's just a fun mouthful.
Triple T would be better, maybe.
Yeah.
I
Triple
have
T
a feeling
Church of Jesus. How about
some
that?
of their favorite like books of the Bible are Timothy, maybe Thessalonians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We exclusively use Timothy and Titus. And
Are there any Old Testament T books? Uh-oh. So this is more of a New Testament church, I guess.
Yeah, they watched too many American pastors, and they said, well, we have to alliterate this thing. All the American pastors do. 3 T words. All right.
Okay, so I guess in closing with these guys, if you're traveling to South Korea and you're looking for some fortune telling, we should seek these guys out. I mean, I don't know.
I think I know people here with tarot cards that'll do it without taking your personal information. But hey, if you're feeling frisky, go ahead.
Want some mind control? Yeah.
You could read your own tarot cards with the modern day phone to translate, I would assume.
Christian's not doing it, though. You might go to hell for reading tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
They protect you.
For sure. It's a slippery slope, at least.
It's always a slippery slope.